Barbershop owner that I used to work for, she helped me get this spot. You know, she was like, hey, there's this spot open, you should go check it out. She empowered me, she pushed me. And so I'm super grateful for people like that. And so, but once again, like the biggest struggle would be like just breaking off that fear, taking the risk.
How's everybody doing today? My name is Juan Francisco, and I am here with Jorge Aguirre from Kingdom Cuts. We're going to be interviewing him, asking him questions of how the shop came to be, what struggles did he have before opening up the shop, and just getting an insight of everything before the shop to when the shop came to open. Without further ado, let me introduce Jorge Aguirre.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me on. I'm super excited for this interview and however we can make an impact and make that vision come alive. So I'm excited.
How long have you been in the industry, George?
Yo, so, I did start cutting hair at the age of 15. I was in high school and just, picked up the clippers, had a clipper at home and just started with all my friends and just getting out of trouble, just getting stuck on that. And I just found a passion for it at a real young age. So I would say, technically, we say the first time we pick up the clippers when we started, but, I didn't graduate high school until 2013 and I went straight into barber school. So I've been cutting hair since I was 15. I'm 28 now. And so if you do the math, it's about 12, 13 years of just straight up cutting hair, started in the backyard with all my friends and straight out of high school, went into barber school. Within a year, had my first barbering job. And I've only worked about 2 shops before opening Kingdom Cuts. And so we have a little bit of experience of going from different shops, different atmospheres. And we had the honor and blessing in 2020 to have the privilege to open up Kingdom Cuts.
So one thing you have mentioned to me before is that you've actually went into a barbershop to get info, but you were shut down.
Yeah, so when I was actually 15, starting to cut hair, started on my friends, I remember going to a local barbershop. And at the time, we didn't go to barbershops a lot, so it was like a little bit uncomfortable. But I remember getting a haircut and asking one of the barbers, like, just trying to get more information, just as young teenager, trying to get some information on the industry, on cutting hair, what my future would look like, right? And sure enough, I'm in the middle of a haircut, and I'm like, it took a lot of courage to ask the barber, like, hey, I think I asked him, like, is barbering a good job? And if it is, do they make enough money to make a living? Like, just some question in that area. Because I know growing up in my family, it was like, you can't be a barber because you're not going to make no money. You ain't going to do nothing good. And so I remember that was like one of my greatest questions I had. Well, can you make a living? And sure enough, they just like shrugged their shoulders, made me feel small and just kind of like it didn't matter. Kind of just like made a funny comment. And I just remember like walking out of there like, man, like there was no one to help me. And I went on my journey from there just alone, just like never reached out again. And I just began to plow through, the mindset of what it meant to be a barber.
See, that's one thing that I can relate to right there is that even when I mentioned to my parents, like, hey, I'm a cut hair, my dad was the one that was like, why are you gonna do that? Like, that job's for ladies,
Yeah.
But luckily we didn't take that to heart, and we took our dreams and just ran with it, just did anything we could just to accomplish that. And you know what? Like, I want to congratulate you that didn't stop you.
Yeah, thank you.
My other question is, what inspired you to really take it 100%?
Yeah, so, at least for me, I remember growing up and my dad does garage doors. And so every summer it was like hard work in the summer, just like super, like crazy work. And I remember just being young and like, bro, I'm not gonna work in the sun. Like that was my biggest thing. And I remember like I didn't know at the time, but I was like, I know I'm gonna open up a business. I know I wanna do something different from what like my family does. And I remember the moment I picked up a clipper, like, man, I'll tell you, like, I just connected with it. Like, at the time I was getting into trouble. I was in a graffiti crew and just like super artistic, just trying to expand my artistic skills, right? In the sense of like street tagging, just running amok. But the reality was that I didn't know that at the time, but I'm naturally, I've been created to be a creative. And so artistically, like I have a connection with art, with photography, with video, cutting hair, I see as an art. And so now that I realize that, that's when my passion, when my connection happened. I'm talking about 15, 16 years old, a year, just doing free haircuts for like the first 3 years of cutting hair, like sitting in my backyard, and I would tell clients, like friends that were coming at the time, right, not even clients, that were just coming to get a cut by their friend in the backyard at 115 degree, 118 degree weather, sweating, no shirt on, like just crazy weather. And I would sit there, but I would tell them, like, one day I'm gonna work in a barbershop. One day I'm gonna, own a barbershop. And I would sit there and just dream. I would just begin to dream, and I've always been a dreamer. And so that's kind of like what really set my perspective on the industry of like, hey, I want to make it in this industry. I want to do something with it. And I remember just week after week doing free haircuts and sitting there, and I would just like kind of declare that, like, I'm gonna be in a barbershop one day. I'm gonna have a station. I'm gonna, have a barber chair, because at the time I didn't have one. And just like from that moment, I felt like I began to build up the reality within my heart and my mind before it came into fruition. So that's kind of been my journey in that area.
How many people were like, bro, I'm not gonna let you cut my hair?
Bro, like so many. I remember at the time were just like, for example, like my brother. Like at the time, my brother, like just always trying to get a cut and just trying to stay fresh. He would get like a 1 with a skin fade. And I remember when I first started cutting hair, he was like, you're never gonna cut my hair. Just teasing me or whatever. But then when he started seeing my face get a lot better, man, he was in my chair like 3 times. I would say like, every 3 days, every 4 days, he would just sit there, get a cut. I had a couple uncles, like they would just come, and one uncle in particular was like, you're never gonna touch my hair, you're never gonna do my beard and all these different things. But as I got better, as they saw the work improve, they trusted me, and now it's like, I'm their favorite barber.
Bro, that's so funny, because, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of barbers that can relate to that they start off and they just ask every single person they can I cut your hair? Can I cut your hair? And everybody's like, nah, maybe in the summer, or right, not right now, or I'll never let you cut my hair. It is funny, bro, because it just shows like, you know what? I'm not gonna let that bring me down.
Right.
And I'm just gonna keep on pushing.
Yes, sir.
For sure. Like, I'm pretty sure you knew one day they were just gonna be like, hey, bro, I'm gonna submit. Let me cut my hair,
yes,
And it's dope, bro.
Yeah, it's definitely a fulfilling moment, when you sit there and it's like someone that maybe didn't believe in you or just wasn't ready, to give you a shot, and then they finally give you a shot. It's just like, it's definitely a fulfilling moment. And so if there's any new barbers watching this, we want to make sure that we encourage them, like, hey man, don't give up. Like, if you just got one person, like, one person's enough. If it's just your little brother, if you're just starting up, like, the vision starts in the backyard, and from there we grow it. So I want to encourage that.
And one thing I want to add to that is, don't let your pride get in the way either of those people that told you no. Because I feel like that just shows them like you were able to prove them wrong. And now they're able to come to you and be like, hey, like I see how good you got, like, can you cut my hair? Me personally, back in the days, I would have been like, nah, like I got clientele now, but realizing it's like, nah, dude, cut their hair. Because it's just, it's amazing just to see people that told you no, now I'll come and be like, hey, like, I need a fade, bro. Like,
yeah, I love it, bro. I love it.
Yeah, because, I've seen that a lot. I also started cutting hair around the same time you did. 15 years old, kept bugging everybody. And I'm just glad, bro, that we're both here now, the same barbershop, and being able to just connect and just keep doing this, because we both heard no so many times, and we're here, we're still making it happen, and it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely a blessing.
So George, going on to the next question. How did the name of the barbershop come to be?
So, I got to share my faith with the name of the barbershop. So, I'm also a local youth pastor here in Indio at Spiritfield Church. And when I was about 19, I'm 28 now. I started my journey in my Christian faith. I was just super in a bad time of my life, just going through so many different problems. And I was cutting hair at the time, and I knew that from the day one, I was like, hey, I want to be a barber. I want to open up the barbershop. But as my faith started growing, as I started getting closer to God, it was those moments that I began to realize that I had a bigger purpose, that I had a bigger plan than just cutting hair, to make a difference. And so as my faith began to grow, I began to realize that the meaning of life was bigger than owning a business, bigger than just cutting hair, doing what I was maybe passionate about. And so the name, the way it came was like, I remember before I got saved, it was like I wanted to name a barbershop like Georgie's Barbershop, right? Like everyone calls me Georgie ever since I was young. So I had like this image of what I wanted a barbershop to be. And it was going to be like Georgie's Barbershop. It was going to be this super dope culture type of shop. But I remember, when I got saved, I remember God asking for everything. It's like, son, give me your dreams. Give me everything. Give me your future. Like, just give it to me. And with that, it came my dream of opening up a barbershop. And I remember when I gave it to him, like I never thought I would get it back. And years later, as I was working, just continued grinding, growing my faith. I remember I was in the service and a minister, one of my spiritual fathers, he like prayed over me and was like, hey, God says he wants you to open up a barbershop. And I was like, I just gave God everything. Like I didn't really realize it. And I remember I took it home to prayer. And I was like, God, like I gave you my dreams. Like I'm just trying to be what you call me to be. At the time I started ministry and I started being a pastor, I was like, there's not really, I'm already living in this purpose. And I remember having this dialogue moment with the Lord. And I felt the Lord really tell me, he said, son, if you opened up the barbershop, like, what would you name it? And I was like I'll name it Kingdom Cuts, like kingdom first, kingdom centered. And he was like, that's the difference. He's like, before you gave me your dream, it was about you. It was about your vision, your selfish ambition. He's like, now that I'm giving it back to you, it's about me. Now it's kingdom centered. Now it's God centered. And so that's where the name came from. And we live to create a place where people can experience an atmosphere of the kingdom, a loving and welcoming atmosphere. And that's pretty much like how the name came, and like super connected to my faith. And I believe it's one of the few shops that you can come and you can trust the atmosphere for families, for single moms. You can drop off your children, not worry, because, sometimes the culture of the barbershop is not always welcoming to the younger, to the single moms. It always can be, a little bit intimidating. And so I wanted to make sure that we create a family environment, but also keep the culture of the barbershop true to what it is. And that's what we've been doing. And so, Kingdom Cuts came out of, Matthew 6:33, where the Bible says, seek first the kingdom of God and everything else shall be added. And so we're God-centered, we're faith-centered. We put God first before everything. And that's our heart here, is that as long as we put God first, everything else will fall into place.
Let the audience know when you opened up your shop, because that's a big thing right there, because around the time you opened it, what was going on?
Yeah, so I actually opened it in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, where barbershops were closed, everything was shut down. I was doing mobile haircuts, and I used to work at a barbershop, called Joe's Barbershop here in Indio. Linda, if you're watching this, I'm shouting you out. Super dope owner. I love her to death. Man, she gave me an opportunity and just really kind of just helped me out in my journey in barbering. But at the time, I was doing mobile haircuts, driving around the city of Indio, and she called me and was like, hey, there's this opportunity, like you should check it out. Like she kind of literally empowered me, or like pushed me into like becoming a business owner. And so I got to shout her out, man. She's super important in my life in that aspect of where she like really pushed me forward. Now a lot of barbershop owners will do that. And so imagine pandemic, shops are closing, they're not opening. And then God opens up a door for us to come in, to open up the shop. And I think even like the first month we opened, we had another barber. He was here with us, and he opened the barbershop with me. His name's Erwin. And so we worked for like 3-4 weeks, and then we got shut down again. And I remember it was like, man, we got shut down, we had to close. And so we were right in the middle of everything, of the pandemic. Things were closing, but God's grace, and I believe, through God's favor, He was, when a lot of shops or a lot of different businesses were closing, He was opening ours up. And so I'm super grateful for that.
Hey man, to me, it's amazing to hear that, because like you said, barbershops were closing. Barbers were leaving barbershops to work from home, to do mobile cuts. Me included. I remember I had to tell the previous owner that I worked for,
right.
I had to tell him, bro, I'm going to be working from home the day his daughter was born.
Yeah.
That was so, like, I didn't want to do that to him. So I did tell him, hey, I'll finish off the month, but this is where I see everything going, and I can't, like, it's just being shut down and everything. It was pretty hard. So I had to tell him that. Unfortunately, like, his daughter was being born that day, and it was just a tough conversation for me to have with him. But it's something that I felt like I needed to do, because,
right.
Living with my wife and my in-laws, we did have her grandma there. So just being around so many people, probably exposing myself and probably exposing her grandma,
Right.
it was just tough. So I did have to have that conversation with them, and it wasn't a good conversation, but it had to happen. And it's just, COVID was a struggle for a lot of barbers, because either you were in a situation similar to mine, or whatever your situation was, like,
Right.
it was just not easy, because bills still had to be paid.
Right.
Just life doesn't stop because there's a pandemic going on.
Right.
It literally did not stop.
It was gonna stop for nobody.
So it was a tough time, but I'm glad that you were able to, be able to open up such a beautiful barbershop in that time. And like you said, it's, your faith really brought you, what you have now, which is the barbershop. And I love that verse you have on the sign, because it's something that not a lot of people think. They don't choose to put God first.
Right.
But you did. And that's amazing, because, like I said, not a lot of people do that. And going on to the next question, what struggles did you have before opening up the barbershop? Because I know there's probably were some struggles.
Yeah, no, there's definitely struggles, and like, to be, transparent. Like, I feel like the biggest struggle for me was just the fear. Like, I knew I had the talent, I had the clientele. Like, it was actually like in the pandemic where I was cutting hair, and I realized, like, because I was doing mobile haircuts, so I had to like literally start booking appointments. And before that, I was just all walking. So I was like, I felt like I was dependent on a barbershop to bring in work for me. And I knew I was good. I knew I had returning clients, but I didn't realize how much clientele that I really built over time. And I remember like talking to my wife, and like as we were venturing off and just kind of like praying about the idea and praying about God opening up a door. I remember just like as I was booking these mobile haircuts, like I was like, man, like I got solid clientele, like, and I remember the biggest thing was the fear, the risk of, stepping out in faith and, starting the barbershop, and am I going to be able to get barbers? Is my work going to sustain what it needs to be to sustain so we can make a living? And so for me, like I feel like the biggest struggle was my fear. You know what I mean? I've always grown up with like some type of insecurity, or just didn't really believe in myself. Like, I'm a first minister in my family. I'm a first Allah. I'm a first business owner. And so just like stepping out in that ground where no one's familiar with, no one that I know is living out maybe the life that I would say that I'm living. And so that fear was something that I really had to break. And I remember like, talking to my wife and just like, man, I don't know if I could do it. And she would like have to look at me and say, hey, like, you got enough clientele, like you got it, like God's with you, and just kind of encourage me. And I remember, so for me, like the biggest thing I would say was the fear, breaking off the fear, breaking off the mindset. And even as we began to work on the barbershop right before we're opening, like going from like a consumer mentality into a business owner mentality. Like even over the years, like I'm still coming off of me, just really living that place. So I think the mindset of what it means to be a business owner, the perspective and just stepping out and taking that risk. But like for me, I would say like there was different struggles, you know what I mean? But I think the biggest struggle, and the one I would say I would emphasize in, is the fear. And so there's anyone like that's in that place, man, you got to step out. You will never know what you're going to step into if you never step out of where you're at. And so I want to encourage someone, man, if you're in that fear, you're like in that place where there's so many things giving you the right hint or the right direction to take a step forward, whether it's to open up your own studio or maybe even open up your own barbershop, like do it. Because at the end of the day, you're never going to know until you step out. And it was like, for me, I didn't realize the risk. And, it's like what they say, little risk, little reward. The bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. And so there's definitely a greater reward at the end of our bigger risk that we take within our lives. And so that was my biggest challenge that I would say, on top of all the, minor or different type of challenges of, communicating. At least for me, I know like my dismissal from the previous barbershop was like a God ordained, or like I would just say like the best type of me leaving the barbershop. Like there's no envious, like there's nothing bad between me and the previous like barbershop owner that I used to work for. Like in contrary, I think like we love each other more, like from a distance. It's like we honor each other in what we're doing. And for me, that is the biggest blessing. Like I could imagine, right, as being a barbershop owner, having to lose one of your barbers. And so for me, like even that wasn't a struggle. Like, my barbershop owner that I used to work for, she helped me get the spot. You know, she was like, hey, there's this spot open, you should go check it out. She empowered me, she pushed me. And so I'm super grateful for people like that. And so, but once again, like the biggest struggle would be like just breaking off that fear, taking the risk.
Dude, that's amazing because, you know, not a lot of barbershops owners do that, where they push their barbers to want to take that next step.
Right.
If anything, they just want, hey, are you sure? Like, you know, like giving you that, adding to that doubt that, you know, like, should I do it? Should I not do it?
Right.
And it should be the other way around. It should be like, you know what? Like, I hope you've taken so much from here that you can bring into your business.
Yes.
And not a lot of people like see it like that. They just see it as competition, when in reality it's like, you should want to see, you know, people that you help like elevate their skills to want to do better, and to just be like, you know, take what they learn and add it to their business, because it just shows something on you as a business owner to be like, hey, I'm glad I was able to teach them that, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree with you, man. Like, that's one, like, for me, like, I made a commitment, like, to go through that experience where I had a barbershop owner, like, empower me and, like, say, hey, I believe in you. You should try it. This is a perfect opportunity for you. Like, it kind of, like, convicts me now. So, like, even, you know, with you or just anyone that would ever come to work with me, not for me, but work with me, it's like, I believe in empowering people. You know what I mean? I believe in pushing people forward. And so, like, if there's anyone that, at least that's my conviction, like, if someone did it for me, how much more can I do it for someone else, right? And so that's my heart as well. It's like, we're here to empower people, push people forward. And sometimes that means, you know, losing a barber so they could venture off and start their own business. And so if there are barbershops owners watching this, I know this is partly against the grain, against like the business mentality, right? The booth rent mentality where we're trying to keep barbers in. But I believe if we're a place of empowerment, there's always be more people to be empowered. And so that's kind of my heart. You know, I received that, I've experienced that, and now I'm willing to definitely give that to any barber that I work with.
Yeah, bro, that's good to hear, because it's just, you know, like I said, it's there's so much like that competition mindset, which it shouldn't be that way. But one thing that I did want to ask you is, because when we met at a what's it called, a class, a shear cutting class, and I told you, yeah, bro, I'm good in the garage. I'm never gonna work at a barbershop again. I'm gonna be working from home until like I get my own little studio. But then we went out to dinner that night, and something just clicked in my head, like, I kind of want to start working in a barbershop again, because I got that interaction to be with just two friends, you know, like to have that connection, to just have that, I guess you could say, without making it really weird, but the like intimacy of just being like friends and just being around like just people. Because being in a garage, it was pretty isolating.
Yeah.
I only got to see my clients, and it was just, in a sense, it was kind of like, I'm working from home, and that's where I'm at 24/7.
Yeah.
And it was a little like, it was cool, but it wasn't forever. But I know something that was on your heart is you were careful to who you hired in the barbershop. Can you explain why?
Yeah, so, you know, like I said, you know, going back to like Kingdom Cuts and the type of environment that we want to provide, that I had in my heart to provide. Not just anyone can work here, because of the atmosphere I want to give out to our clients or even just our community. And I think one of the biggest challenges, you know, I wouldn't say like, I'm faith-based, I'm a pastor, and I try not to bring my religion, per se, into the barbershop, but I do bring my faith. And my faith never leaves me. I carry my faith, I carry my relationship with God very openly. And I want my barbershop or my business to be an expression of my faith. I really do, because I believe that there's no greater place than in the place of business, or the place where we interact throughout our community. And so for me, just to hire anyone, that was not going to happen. For me, it was like, hey, there's a certain culture I want. There's a certain community that we're looking for. There's a certain atmosphere we're going to build. And if you don't fit that culture, you don't fit the atmosphere, number one, you know, you're going to be miserable, and I'm going to be miserable. Because now we got something fighting the culture, fighting the way of the kingdom that I want to establish here at the barbershop. And so for me, it was like, I was, to be honest, super prayerful. Like, I even remember telling God, like, hey, I don't want to go out and look for a barber. Like, I want you to bring me one. Like, I don't want to go out and be desperate. Like, I'm gonna be patient. And the barber chair was kind of just empty for a while, just because there was a specific atmosphere and a specific culture that I was building, that I was like, I can't just have anyone come and destroy that, right? You go to some barbershops, and if this is your barbershop, then all power to you. But I don't believe as a place of business, drinking and smoking and the type of conversations and the music that's being played. Like in the barbershop, we become this free culture where like we can just do whatever we want. We're cutting hair and people are gonna pay us, and we create this atmosphere, but we don't think about the single moms, we don't think about the families, and we forget that we're still running the business. And we forget the importance of creating a welcoming atmosphere. And when you go to a barbershop and the music's bumping, you can't hear no one, and no one tells you hi, and it smells like beer, it smells like weed. Like ain't no family gonna want to trust that place. They might trust you as a barber, but they're not gonna trust that place as an atmosphere. And so for me, it's very critical even now. Like if we're gonna add anyone to the team, it's always like, hey, do they fit the culture? Or if I, like when we talked, I kind of told you straight off, like, hey man, I'm not trying to push my religion on you, but this is who I am as an owner. This is what we believe here at Kingdom Cuts. This is the type of atmosphere. I was very clear. And it was like, hey, if the shoe fits, like, let's go, put it on. Like, we can work together. And it's because I believe that I have a blueprint and a vision of what I want to create. Number one, to honor God in my faith, and to create an atmosphere that honors our clients, honors families, honors single moms that come in. And so that's kind of like my heart behind, where it was like, I can't just hire nobody.
One thing that you told me before I started working here was that you don't believe in coincidences.
Right.
Because I remember the story that you told me was you were gonna put a post out like, I'm looking for a barber, but you got busy. That post never got posted up or didn't get finished. And then that same day I walked in.
Yeah.
I walked in curious, like, hey man, like I wanted to come check out the shop. I want to see like how the atmosphere is. And it's crazy to me that how you kind of like explained to me, like with God, there's no coincidences.
Right.
Because you also mentioned like you never go to any really like barber stuff, but you went to that class.
Yeah.
We run into each other. We have dinner. Like it's just all these things. It's kind of like, it was like a puzzle just waiting to happen. And then I come in and it's like, I think like a week or two, like maybe a month, I started working here.
Right.
So it's kind of like, it's crazy when you were explaining to me, because I was just like, I didn't see that.
Right.
And it's a blessing for me to be in this environment, because I appreciate everything you do for the barbershop and for the clients. Like there's a lot of stuff that I've learned from you, from being in the barbershop, that I now use in my day-to-day life. And I personally think it's very beautiful, because it just made me a better version of myself. Because I used to go from barbershop to barbershop and I would learn some okay habits, but the bad habits stuck with me a lot.
Right.
And I was bringing that home. And unfortunately, that was affecting just some stuff like with my character that I wasn't happy with anymore. So when I came here and I started learning about everything, I'm just like, man, it just opened up my eyes to a whole different world, because it's just beautiful being in such a welcoming environment.
Right. Because
honestly, I do cut up a lot of kids, a lot of families, and I know they appreciate being here, because it's just beautiful that they come in and be like, dang, it's nice, it's welcoming, and it's a beautiful environment. Yeah, that's what I could say.
No, yeah, definitely, man. Like going back to like, I don't believe in coincidence. I believe in God ordained moments. And it was like, I remember I was about to put up the post, like in faith. I was even praying, like, you know what, God, I'm just gonna do it. Like maybe it was just me. And you have those type of moments. But I remember, I did get busy, and then you walk up, to a barbershop, and you just like put up on me. And it was like, just from there, within a couple conversations, it was like, hey, I'm gonna give it a shot. And yeah, sure enough, like, at least for me, like prior, to the barbershop open, like I was super centered and focused on living my God dream, living what I believe God wanted for me. And at the time, it was just like, I'm just going to be a pastor. I'm just called to preach. Like barbering is just something that helps me kind of, provide, and everything else like that I do for the church. Like I want to serve, I want to give in volunteer work and just do everything for free, right? But we know that I got to provide for my family got a nice family that I got to provide for. And sure enough, like barbering is providing for me. But I remember, like when the barbershop came and I started realizing like, hey, there's more to me than just being a preacher, though I love being a preacher. There's more to me than just being a pastor, though I love being a pastor. Like, I'm a business owner. I'm called to be a business owner, make an impact in our community through business. And I believe like when I entered that phase, like I began to open up my heart to different things, right? Like going to a workshop, going to a barber battle, just kind of getting back in the barbering industry as in like, hey, I can make a difference here. I can use this in my faith, or I can make an impact in my community by accepting and embracing the community and the industry of barbering. And, going back to that, it was definitely a God moment, and we've seen nothing but our relationship grow. We're growing as a barbershop, but we're also growing as people. And ultimately, the more we grow as people, the more our business can flourish and our character. So there's so much that goes to being a barber, being a barbershop owner that's beyond the clippers, that I would say when it comes to character. You mentioned having good habits and bad habits. And that's our heart, here at Kingdom Cuts, is that we would give people and empower them to have good habits, to live a healthier life, relationally, because it makes an impact, especially as a barber. You're dealing with people, you're dealing with relationships. I remember there's a old barber I used to work with, and I'll never forget what he told me. It was by the name of Orlando, and he said, hey man, every time we cut someone's hair, it's just a continued conversation we had with them. And it's like, man, to me that was powerful. So like your clients is an ongoing relationship, an ongoing conversation, that they come once a month, twice a month, 3 times a month, and the conversation just keeps going. And it's like this never ending conversation, and just picks up where it's left off. And if you don't have the character for that, you're probably not going to build clientele. If you don't have the right character, you're probably not going to win that family. You're not going to win that single mom. You might win the son because he loves your haircut, but she might not feel comfortable to drop him off because of the type of environment you're in. And so, yeah, definitely, man, character and the way we uphold ourselves as barbers is very important.
One thing that I wanted to ask you is, you started a nonprofit organization, and it's goes by the name of Marked.
Yes.
So being part of Marked, you have to sometimes travel and be outside of the barbershop.
Right.
So how important is it, and this is on top of the last question I asked you, how important is it to have the right team? Because when you're gone sometimes 10 days, etc. How important is it to have the right team to manage the barbershop when you're not here?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's vital. I think it's important. And that's, ultimately that's one of the reasons why I'm grateful for you. You definitely been someone that I can trust. And even the other barber that we have in here, Erwin, man, I can trust you guys. Like how you said, like imagine leaving for 10 days, right? Like not just one time a year, but like I've done it 2-3 times a year where I was like, I'm gone for 8, 9, 10 days. And I'm out doing, ministry work. I'm preaching. I'm doing what I believe God is calling me to do. And it's like not once am I sitting there worried about what's happening at the barbershop, because I know I have a solid team that I can trust. And I think it kind of goes back to the type of culture we have, to the type of atmosphere we're trying to build. Because if you're trying to build a specific culture, right, like ours, welcoming, a trustworthy one, a loving one, and it takes a certain type of people and a certain type of person to uphold that type of culture. And, having you and having Erwin, around, it's like you guys carry that. You guys carry that well, right? No one's perfect, but we carry the culture well. And I think having a team that I can trust through relationship, through caring and loving, it's like it means so much, and it makes being an owner a lot easier instead of, coming back to problems, coming back to issues. Like, I don't think, we've been working together for the last 2-3 years, and I don't think once I've came back to problems, right? I have yet to come back to something crazy happening because maybe you mismanaged something or Erwin mismanaged something in the barbershop. But it goes back to establishing that type of relationship with the barbers. Like we sit down and we talk, and beyond the barbershop, like I can sit here and say, I would like to hope, to think, right? This is what I think, and maybe you can probably share with those watching, is like how my heart is, relationally with you and the barbers, where it's not just about barbering, not just about the booth rent and how you can make me money, but it's like, hey, how are you doing? How's your marriage? Hey, these are some tips I see that maybe you could be a better barber, and hey, treat this client a little bit different. Like just certain things that I'll sit down and just as an owner, and I believe it gives you a sense of like trust and like, man, George is looking out for me. Or even like the conversation we talked about earlier about, barbershop owners empowering barbers. Like, we've had conversations where I'm like, hey bro, if you want to open up a barbershop, like you don't got to hide it here, like if that's what you want, like let's talk about it, however I can help you. Like I'll go as far and say, man, like the day you do open, like I'll be the first one there, like that's just the type of heart I have. And I know it's against the grain. It's not the business mentality that everyone kind of goes for, but it goes back to that, building those type of relationships where, hey, it's not just what you can give me, but it's like, what can we offer each other? And that's why I like to say, like, we work with each other and not, you don't work for me. You don't work, for Kingdom Cuts. Like you work with Kingdom Cuts. And I believe it's more of a partnership. And because I've taken that perspective and that outlook when it comes to us working with each other, I believe that's made an impact on creating a solid team that says, hey, like he trusts me, so I'm gonna take care of that trust. And it's like give and take, and we're giving to each other, we're taking from each other, and we're just building that solid relationship between each other as a team, personally. And so I definitely see that being the biggest impact when it comes to creating a solid team, is the community, but the relationship in between the barbers, right?
See, so seeing that perspective and being here and like seeing that, it's made me cautious now. Or not necessarily cautious, but it's made me like more like, okay, I want to have not just certain expectations when I open up a barbershop. I really want to open up a studio, but if
right.
if the opportunity comes and I get to open up a barbershop, I'm gonna talk to my wife about it, see where we're at with it. But if I do open up a barbershop, it's put a lot of value in what it takes to not just be a business owner, but to be a barbershop owner.
Yeah.
So I can see those values. So if I ever do need to take time off, I would want to have the same type of expectations where I don't have to worry.
Right.
But that comes with the good team, where it's like, okay, they know where my values are, and where they can actually take those into consideration. And then maybe when they open up their shop, or if they ever leave and go somewhere else, they have expectations now, because it's not just open up a barbershop, turn the key, business is booming.
Right.
It's like what goes beyond just the haircut, because people not only want to experience a great haircut,
yes,
but they want an environment where they feel like they're at home,
mm-hmm.
where they can go to sleep when they're getting a haircut. Like
right.
I've had a couple clients just straight up knock out. They're like, hey, this is so relaxing.
Right.
And to me, that tells me they're in their most comfortable state, because they're trusting me with either a razor with the clippers on their heads and they're knocking out. I'm on their lineup. I'm doing their lineup, and they're like, hey. So to me, it's like it shows me that there's so much, like, not necessarily like, there's a lot of love. Like, how can I put this? People don't realize they need that until they experience it.
Right.
And when they experience it and they go somewhere else, they're like, yeah, it's not the same.
Yes, sir.
So that's the same way I feel when it comes to now. If, let's say, I move to a different state, to a different
right.
area code, whatever the case may be, now there's going to be expectations on me as a barber to, if I do try to go to another shop, how is the shop like?
Right.
What can they offer me instead of me offering them? Because now I've experienced that. I've experienced like just a loving environment. So if I get into some place where it's hostile and it's like I've been to a barbershop where the barber legit had a gun in his station. And I said, why do you need that? He's like, well, you just never know. It's like, hey bro, I don't want to be in that type of barbershop where it's like, hey, what's gonna happen, And it's like it sounds funny, but at the end of the day, it's like, nah, it's kind of serious, because like, what kind of people are coming in?
Right.
I've heard of barbershops where people are getting into fights.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't want to be cutting hair and somebody just starts fighting out of nowhere, or maybe like two guys don't like each other, and like whatever the case may be, it's not healthy. It's not an environment where it's like I feel comfortable. So if I don't feel comfortable, how are my clients going to feel comfortable?
Yes, sir.
So it's dope that you have those values for yourself, and I see that. So now, like, to me, it's like I want to put my expectations that high too, because I just don't want to be just anywhere, or I don't want other barbers to feel like if they ever come into my place of business, or even families, to feel like, what kind of experience am I going to get? I want them to have the best experience. I want them to be able to come in and be like, hey, like, this is the best shop I've ever been to. And I want to, and if I ever do get to hear those words, I know, like, it came from working at Kingdom Cuts.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, man. I think it's very important. And it's like, obviously, as a barbershop owner, like, you're a leader, you're a leader of the team. And it's like, whatever you allow, whatever the direction that you want to build, the culture, the atmosphere of the barbershop is going to be conducive to how you uphold yourself. And yeah, like, I agree with you. Like, me keeping my values close to me and making them open, making them clear, has kind of allowed you to make a decision, say, hey, I want to partner with that value. Hey, I agree with that value. Or, like, I like to let people know that, hey, like, I believe in my values so much that my value, or the atmosphere and the culture that I'm building at Kingdom Cuts personally with the team, is gonna value your business. You're gonna get more clientele because of the atmosphere. Your business is gonna grow here, instead of, like, your business is, you're gonna lose clientele because maybe the barber next to you is bringing the trouble. Like, because it's so many different people, so many different types of people working together, that it's like, hey, if it crashes with the culture, like, it can negatively impact, your business, personally. And so I like to believe that if we keep our values high, if we keep our culture in a specific place that's welcoming to everyone, and I say this again, like, the single moms, the ones that don't have the dad and they got to take their son to the barbershop, like, you want to make that place comfortable for them. And I feel like in my heart, I was raised by a mom that for a long time she was, a single mom, and so I have a heart for them. But it's almost in that reality, like, hey, everyone should be welcome in this place. And it's the values that we make clear through relationship as a barbershop owner with the barber that creates that type of environment. And once again, like I say, that I believe my values, or the values that we uphold at Kingdom Cuts, is going to bring value to anyone's business that comes, to partner with us or to come and work with us, because of the atmosphere, because of the culture that we're building here.
Yeah, dude, that's, a lot of businesses, they don't see it like that, though.
Yeah.
They just see, how many barbers can I get in here? Whether experience or not matters. It's like, how many people can I get in here, and how many heads can they bring in, just so, like, it brings, like, their revenue up.
Yeah.
And it's for some people it works. For some people it may be like, oh, like, whatever. But in reality, it's like, you're also selling an experience, but not just to customers, but to your barbers. Like,
yeah.
That experience, it could be very impactful, or it could be not impactful. And it's like, who knows if in the next shop they go to, like, they either, one, people are always talking. They could talk bad, they could talk,
right.
But the thing is, like, you want to be able to impact somebody so much in the right way that, they're a blessing to somebody else. Like, hey, whether your journey takes you into another shop or to your own shop, like, bring that with you.
Yeah.
To where, you're also impacting other people, because there's so much negativity in the world, like, especially online, that, it almost feels sometimes like the algorithm feeds off negativity, and it's
right.
like there's not so much positivity. So I feel like that's one thing that, for me personally, I'm taking in so much that hopefully I can impact somebody as well. Or if not, just, just keep my heart in that place. But also, when I go home, I'm in the same spirit, because, a lot of stuff that goes on at work, we take it home.
Right.
A lot of people just, little by little, they may notice it, but we do take that home, and it could start an argument. It could be whatever, and it's like, I've been there where I've taken it home, and it's not, I can't blame nobody but myself.
Right.
So it's beautiful that those values are just so high to you, and you're not scared to express it to people, because it's that's your heart.
Right.
And you shouldn't be afraid to show your heart to people, because whatever they might think.
Yeah.
And it's, to me, I'm so happy to be in a place where I can see that, because it makes me feel like, you know what, any doubts that I've had, like, I shouldn't doubt it. I shouldn't be afraid to show who I am because of what other people might think.
Right.
Like, for instance, starting this podcast interview, like, the last year I didn't even want to start my YouTube channel, and it's like, it's been so, like, I was scared. I was scared because being in front of the camera, that's not who I was.
Right.
But it's something I've always wanted to do. I've helped so many people with picking out gear and just helping them with software and just stuff that they wanted to learn. So I would help them, and I would learn everything. It's like, why am I not doing it myself?
Right.
Because this is something that I personally always wanted to do also. And then being here and working with you, that brought me here. That brought me to right now, to be able to do this. And I'm happy that you're my first guest, to be able to experience all this with you.
Let's go.
So let's move on to our last question. And there's so much advice that you have already given, but let's say there is a young adult in front of you asking you, what is one of the best advice you can give me to becoming a barber? Not just as like, oh, what school to go to, what to do, but just like to kind of like empower them to be like, you know what, like being a barber is amazing. It's brought me this much, but I want to give you this advice to carry with you.
Yeah, I think, personally for me, like, I think what has brought, if I have success, right, in cutting hair, building clientele, and, booked on a week-to-week basis, have the opportunity to own a barbershop that's just barely growing, right? I think for me, one of the biggest, or I would say the greatest advice that I can give maybe in cutting hair is probably going to sound super simple, but like, treat people the way you want to be treated. Like, be their barber the way you want someone to be your barber. Because when you do that and you cut hair and you love on people, or you just take care of people in that manner, you're only going to grow. You're only going to get better. And it's like, for example, I cut hair the way, like if I'm cutting my own hair. So I'm not going to leave hair. I'm not going to leave patches. I'm not going to leave a line. I'm going to make sure the lineup's on point. So I'm going to take care of people the way I want to get taken care of. Now, that leads me to being a barbershop owner. How am I going to treat the barbers? Well, I want to treat them the way I want a barbershop owner to treat me as a barber. And so I think that principle of, like the Bible talks about, we should love our neighbors the way we love ourselves, right? And it's like that principle has been a blessing to me, because in business, it's like I want to take care of people like I want to take care of myself. My barbers that I work with, hey, I want to take care of them. I want to be the type of owner that they want to, work with, and not the owner that you just wake up and you're super draggy because you hate where you work at. It's just this ugly environment. And so for me, it's like, if you're not talking about how you can get better at cutting hair, if you're not talking about what school to go to, and you're just like, just give me some simple advice that's practical, that is applicable to me become better, to make me a better barber, like to grow my business. It's like, treat every customer like it's yourself. And if you do that, you're only going to grow. You're only going to get better, because now you're seeking knowledge, you're seeking more skill. Why? Because you want to treat people better. Everything you do is about growth from that perspective. So that's how I govern my business, govern the way I cut hair. And I tell people, like, 9 out of 10 times you're going to come back. Now, if there's an inconvenience or something that happens, like for me, usually the biggest thing that I lose a client is because our schedules don't match up. Like, that's probably the only reason why I generally, lose a client, and not to boast or be like, oh, I'm the best barber here, because I know I'm not the best, but I take care of people the way I want to be taken care of. And because I do that, I've seen the fruit of what it looks like to grow a business, to be able to take a risk, open up a barbershop, bring a team together. And, we have yet to experience someone working with us that sits there and says, hey, that was the worst experience I had. I'd never want to go and cut hair at Kingdom Cuts. From our experience with the 2 barbers that have worked with me, they're like, man, I love the spot. Like, there's only one place for me to go from here, and that's either to get my own studio, to get my own shop. Like, we're only going to grow. And so that's my heart, and my biggest encouragement to anyone watching is, like, treat people the way you want to be treated. And if you take that principle and you apply it in everything, I'm talking about the things, like the little things that sometimes as barbers we get lazy. It's like, do it, you know what I mean? Because if you do it and you live out to that standard, your business has to grow. It has to go up. It doesn't go down from there.
Dang. That's good. That's good. No, because, you know, because I've been there, you've been there, you know. I've been fortunate enough to be blessed to have a lot of barbers that I've met earlier in my journey that, you know, they taught me how to cut hair in a sense. I would watch them, they wouldn't mind. So, but yourself, you had somebody that was just pretty much closed off, and you didn't it kind of like made you not want to ask again.
Right.
So the reason I asked that is because, you know, there are kids out there that either are, what's that word, introvert, where they're just, they love cutting hair, they have a passion for it, but they're maybe just, their voice isn't there yet to where they want to go out and experience and ask questions or network or whatever the case may be. So that's beautiful that you say that, because, you know, like, all of us, like, what happens when we go to a restaurant?
Right.
You know, and the service is bad. What do you say? Like, oh no, I'll probably never come back here again.
Right.
So when you put that into perspective, like, treat everybody the way you want to be treated, you know, that gives a whole different perspective of things, because it's like, what if you're that server?
Right.
And that's somebody in your chair, like, they won't tell you straight up, like, hey, I'm never gonna come back here, just never see them again, you know. So if you give them 100% of what you think your best is, which your best can always grow.
Right.
Your best is always growing. So don't think your best is just like this little thing. No, always think that your best is your best, because, you know, we grow as human beings. Like, we crave knowledge. So if you give the person the best experience you believe you can, like, you're never gonna fail.
Right.
You know, maybe there's things that are just like, oh well, I could have done this different, I could have done that different. That's good that you understand that, because there's always things we can improve in. And if we always think like we're the best, and we get this ego of ourselves that, oh, I'm the best, you know, most of the case we're not the best.
Right.
You know, that's why it's like we have to humble ourselves to that perspective of like, I could always get better.
Right.
I could always get better, because it's an ugly thing to feel like, you know, I was there once where I was like, oh, like, I have all these clients, I'm the best, and then I started losing clients, and then I started wondering, like, why am I not getting booked anymore? You know, and I had to fact check myself, like, what am I doing wrong? How did I talk to people? How did I message people back?
Right.
And unfortunately, I did go through one of my messages, and I saw that in myself, and I'm like, why did I say that in the moment? Like,
Right.
why did I act like that? You know, so I took a look in the mirror, and I realized that, you know, like, I'm not being the best that I could be. So I'm so happy you brought that up. So pretty much this is the end of our interview. George, I'm so grateful you were able to find some time in your busy schedule. I know this is just kind of like, you know, you're taking time out of your day from, you know, your church activities and everything. So I'm so blessed that you were able to come on here and just bless us with all the knowledge that you have as far as barbering and being a business owner. And I'm so grateful you're able to share your faith with us, because, you know, a lot of people do need God in their lives.
Yes, sir.
So I'm so thankful, George, and I'm blessed to have you not just as a friend, but to be able to work with you in this barbershop, Kingdom Cuts, guys. We're here in Indio, California, 92201. So let them know where they can find you, or if they can find your Mark page. We are going to be doing some workshops, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So we actually in March we're going to be doing our first barbering workshop, and so we have a nonprofit called Mark that exists to create space for young people to encounter God and find purpose. And so if you're trying to follow us on Instagram, on YouTube, it's @amarkjan or @amarkjan. If you want to visit our website, it's amarkjan.com. and get into contact with us, follow us. Man, if you're interested, we're believing in the young generation, the next generation, or the now generation, as you would say. And we're believing to empower them. And one of the ways we're going to do it is with barbering. We're going to do it with the skill set that we received. And, you're going to be joining me and giving our first workshop. And so, thank you, Francisco, for everything. This has been an honor and a blessing, to come on and talk about what God is doing, what he's done. And if there's anyone watching, I just want to encourage you. If you're a barber, if you're cutting in the backyard, maybe you're already in a barbershop and you're just trying to grow and become better every day, don't give up, man. Just keep pushing forward. God has a plan and a purpose. If you put him first, you'll see it through. So I want to encourage you. I bless your life, and I know that God has greater things for you. So God bless you. And here's my love to you. We'll see you guys soon.
Amen. And like always, guys, have a blessed day.